Boom, boom. Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode 2 of 4 questions. I am the asker of the 4 questions, Luke T Gilbert. T this week is tremendously exhausted, I think is probably where we're headed with that. But regardless, it'll be light work here with our guest, introducing Ilan Samuel. Is that right, Ilan? Pretty much?
Yeah, pretty close. Yeah. Ilan Samuel. Yeah.
Ilan Samuel from Melbourne in Victoria. Thanks for coming along, Ilan.
Yeah, my pleasure, Luke. It's great to be on the video pod vlog. I'm not sure what you call it.
Yeah, well, we breach all formats, and we might we might get some stills, oil paintings, the whole thing. It's life transcending, art transcending Wednesday night YouTubes. Okay, anyway, regardless, we'll get straight into it because this is a punchy show for the time poor, and most, I guess, fall into that category. So we're going to start off with question number 1. What got you into basketball, Ilan, and when?
Yeah, I'm early 80s born, so I sort of picked up basketball in the early 90s, sort of as Jordan, MJ, Bird were all doing their thing. I've got 2 older brothers, so kind of natural thing, hoop in the driveway, a bit like you guessed last week, Ruben. And yeah, I just started playing. My parents got me into a local team. You know, basketball cards were coming on the scene. 92 Olympics in Barcelona, the dream team. And I loved it. And I'm not sure if I wasn't good at any other sports, but I just stuck with basketball. That was my thing. And yeah, it was great. And I've been sort of rolling ever since.
Yeah, that is interesting. You actually are the first to bring up the whole basketball card phenomena, and that was huge. I mean, that went in our era very similar. That went from nothing to shopping center stores, local street corner stores. I actually found out, my heart was broken. I had a brother I had a friend whose younger brother worked for the one that was closest to our high school where we bought all our cards. And he divulged that the owner of the store actually opened all the boxes and super glued them, pulled out all the good stuff. Yeah. And
I can tell you, I actually circumvented that because I kind of thought I'd take this one step further when I was younger. So my parents were off to the States, so I asked them to pick up some cards for me. They actually came back with 20 boxes. And it wasn't because they felt like giving me 20 boxes. They said to me, sell 10 and the rest is yours. Basically, I've covered the cost of the boxes for them. And I actually was a bit like that basketball card owner, essentially, hey, you just got something, a great card, you want to just trade straight back in for another pack. And I built up a really great collection. I've still got it. I looked like last year, like what it's worth. And like there's a couple of nice cards, like getting close to 4 figures. So I just keep it in the box. They're all nicely protected. And maybe I'll see what it's worth in 5 years time, or I'm not sure. Wow. I haven't really picked up any new cards, but these are all like, from that sort of early 90s to, I don't know, mid 90s or even late 90s. I collected for a while, actually, too long.
Yeah, that's really interesting, actually, that you've got some good stuff. I mean, I've got a solid $400 in David Robinson specialties, but not the most highly regarded by collectors. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that and there was a series of almanacs that they released at the time that we used to go through, and that was how you got your information, because you couldn't go online and look up stats, but you got like the back of the basketball card. That's how you knew who was hot and who was not, what Kendall
100%.
So
yeah, that, and I had a subscription to Beckett, so you could see what they were worth.
Yeah.
And yes, it's all a bit of a throwback, but yeah, it's really popular now. People are breaking boxes live streaming, and people are saying, hey, I better get a Luka or a Trae Young rookie card, because that could be the next thing. I've got all the Shaq and Mourning and all those rookie cards, so I'll just, like I said, I'll look it up one day and see if they're worth a bit, but for now, just keep it in the box.
Hey, 2021 might be the year, because from what I understand, things are really ramping up in that space. So it would probably be worth your time to have a quick look around and see what's going on. So.
No, 100%.
Question number 2: who is your favorite team and why?
Yeah, similar to your guest last week, I initially followed the Charlotte Hornets. It wasn't because I got a hat or anything. It was all about Muggsy Bogues, the 5'3" floor general. I'm short now, and I was even shorter when I was younger. So Muggsy was my guy. And then when Larry Johnson came out, and he had the Grandma Ma campaign with the
Yep.
Converse Reacts, and then Alonzo Mourning followed the year later, and yeah, it was just the Hornets were that team, and I had the starter jacket, the hat. Muggsy, like I said, he was my guy. And then, followed the same sort of kind of sad story like Rubes, where, then I'm a Pelicans fan by default, and you go through that whole Anthony Davis. He had those Chris Paul years, but then the Anthony Davis, and then now Zion and Ingram, and I do have a soft spot similar to Rubes. It's just kind of weird, but like 2 weeks in a row for you. With the Hornets, and with Lonzo now as well, having watched him in the NBL that year he was here. So it's kind of weird. The same thing kind of happened to me in the NBL with my teams keep folding, and it's kind of, I don't know what it is. In the AFL, I follow the Blues, so I haven't had a great kind of run in terms of sporting teams that I follow over the last kind of 10 to 20 years, but hopefully better times ahead.
Well, you raise a very interesting point, and there was a lot to like about Charlotte, and starter hat, starter jacket, Grandma Ma, Converse React, and to carry that on. But if I was in your position or Rue's position, I would be more inclined to now shift my allegiance to the current Charlotte Hornets than what's going, because it's just, there seems to be, I mean, you can't do that, obviously. You got to stick with the underdog, but I mean, there's just there just seems to just be a horrible.
You can't forget that that whole weird Charlotte Bobcats kind of era, and they were really terrible for a long time too.
So bad.
The Pellies have always been pretty pretty competitive. They missed the playoffs the last couple of years, but I'm excited for the new coach and to see what comes of it. They've made a few little moves in the off season. Look, to be straight, obviously they're my team in the NBA, but I probably only really focus outside of checking box scores for fantasy scores. Once the playoffs start, it's just the volume of games and the time it takes to watch a game. Just the regular season, it's hard work. I put more of my effort and attention into watching the NBL because I go to games as well. So I don't obviously I've got a team, but I'm not repping them hard, and it's not like Lakers or whatever, and we've had success, and it's we're the best. It's been a pretty lean patch.
Lean is putting it politely. Could you tell from your you've already clarified your level of fandom, especially during the regular season. Would you even be able to hypothesize who might start for your team next year? Would you?
I mean, obviously, like I said, they've made some moves. Adams out, JV in, Zion, Ingram, Devontae Graham. I think that next spot's going to be interesting with Anders. It's his nickname, Nor. I personally don't like him on the floor as a floor spacer with Ingram, but obviously we've got a new coach as well, so there's going to be a bit of opportunity in the the preseason and to see how the pieces necessarily fit together. So I don't know. I don't think they're a super deep team. I mean, last year they were running, Bledsoe and Ball, and we had a lot of guys, and then it's been a bit of change. I think Satoransky's going to be a nice piece. I think he's underrated. He was on my BB gun team for a minute there. So I think
for a hot minute.
A hot minute until I thought I saw something better. But thing is, right, they're just in the middle, in my opinion. And in sports, being in the middle sucks because you're not going to win, and you're not going to get the next Zion. So you got to build somewhere. They're under a lot of pressure, I'm sure, with Zion, and they're paying Ingram, a heap, and it's not a big market and all that sort of stuff. So they've got to put some people in seats, and I guess there's kind of no shortcut to getting it done. But they've also got a lot of draft picks and things to come through off the back of that Drew Holiday deal last year. So I do follow them. I mean, I follow the NBA in general. But yeah, reading Pelicans blogs and things like that, those days are gone for me. I've got too much else in my life, unfortunately.
I understand. Explain that to me, because when you are associated with one of these lower tier teams that are often missing the playoffs. What is it with the pressure that gets put on them? So they have a good player. Like why? I know why, but I don't. It's like with Drew Holiday, like he was so much better to have on your team. So why then send him to a contending team for bits? And it never works. You never
Yeah.
get value. And I know eventually, like you're looking
Well, they
for
were
it.
going to pay him.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to, right? So if you're not
Yeah.
going to pay him, then you're going to lose him for nothing. So to turn him into 1 year of
Yeah.
Bledsoe, and then I think 3 firsts, and then they roll Bledsoe in one of those firsts, and then they end up getting JV. And like, it's all just like I'm a big believer in the GM process of never letting something just walk out the door for nothing.
Yeah.
So, you know, if I go all the way back to those Hornets days and, you know, they turn Larry Johnson into Anthony Mason, and they turn him into Glenn Rice, and they turn him into, you know, like Eddie Jones, and they just kept turning guys into something before they could just walk out the door for nothing. Jamal Mashburn, like all these deals. It sucks for the fan base, but I think it's a bit of a you know, mirroring of society. You know, I don't know how much time you spend with younger people, but they certainly don't want to wait for much. And that's fine. I'm a big believer in ambition and getting stuff that you want, but you know, everyone's in a rush to get everywhere real quick. And I think in sports, they probably look at their you know, their window as being even smaller. So
that's very interesting, and a encyclopedic recollection of past trades. Very impressive from the general.
Yeah, I wish I could remember things that actually like would be more useful in life, but unfortunately, yeah, property prices and basketball trades and information probably stick a little bit closer than they should.
Yeah. Anyway, let's roll on to question number 3. So question number 3, what do you do for a living, and how did you get into that?
Yeah, great question. So I guess I'd classify myself as a property developer. My qualification, though, is as a property valuer. That's what I studied at university, and what I've still got I guess, a formal qualification in with the Australian Property Institute. But for the last 10 or so years, I've done property development. So a mix of townhouses, apartments, some commercial developments. I've got a small team, got some ties there in the BB gun. Ruben's co-manager, Zach, used to work with me. He's gone on to bigger and better things. And yeah, we run a small team. The projects are starting to grow in size and value, which is exciting. And the brand is starting to get a bit more traction in the marketplace. And yeah, I'm really passionate about it. I enjoy it. I mean, I put my name on it, and you know, it's sort of what do they say? If you love what you do, you never feel like a day of work or something like that. Like, I'm all in. So yeah, it's pretty. Yeah, it's exciting every day, I guess. But and every day is different. So when someone says, "What does a property developer do?" I think most people think, you know, fast cars and long lunches. You know, there's a bit of that. I'm trying, obviously. You know, 4.5-day work week. I've almost got there. Just joking. But yeah, every day is different. It's probably not as sexy as most people would think, but we're a bit like the you know, the conductor in an orchestra. I don't play any instruments, but I have to make sure that all the instruments play beautiful music, so that we get you know, we finish that song and it's a banger.
Yeah, that is that's a very good way of putting it, actually. But you I mean, as you get on, you get more experience, you get better at rounding the corners of things. So you know, you'll build relationships, so you know that you have someone that you don't have to micromanage them. You know, they're fulfilling a role for you, so you know, that frees up a little bit more time for you when you work on it. Despite all that, at this place in your career, and you are, you know, your profile's certainly lifting, and there's a lot of really appealing properties that bear your name at the moment, I can from what I've seen. But is it, you know, are we talking you know, are you working 70 hours a week? Are you working, you know, more like a standard work week at this stage? Like, is it as bad as it really could be, or does it ramp up depending on what the project's doing? Or
yeah, look, it's a great question. I mean, I kind of touched on it before. Like, you know, if you love what you do, you don't really sort of think about it too much, and I kind of don't. I probably don't really switch off. So, you know, I'll work.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm hanging out with my kids, and I'll spend time with them until I go to bed, and then, you know, I'll just jump on the computer and work till whenever I need to catch up. But that's more representation on me. I just like to be up to date and get things done. I'm full of metaphors, a bit like tennis. If the ball's on the other side of the court, then it's not with me and I can chill. And I like to always put it back on other people to keep things moving, because I guess in property and in development particularly, time is money. So if you're always moving forward, that forward momentum is a bit contagious, and it just means that things are getting done. And it's not like, buy site, get permit, sell, get builder, go. Like, there's 1,001 things to do in between. And every time I do something, I'm taking a little bit more risk out of it. So, some people might look at developers and think that we take big risks, but really all we're trying to do is eliminate risk every single day that we're pushing the project forward, and try to firm up, I guess, the assumptions that we made from the beginning. So, there is a lot of money at stake in the process, and there's a lot of money that comes out at the end. But ultimately, we work to margins that probably a lot of businesses would work to greater margins, but just the quantum of money that is in play with us probably is a little bit more appealing. So, I've really, this last year plus in COVID, a lot more flexibility with work from home. I've been able to kind of manage my time a little bit differently with less meetings, and I can pick and choose, I don't have to dial into a Zoom meeting, because if I'm in the office, I might just have to join in. But and that's been good to kind of break up the day, do exercise, be more involved with my kids, help out while they're young and all that sort of stuff. So I don't really know. I do know that every weekend I've got to work and catch up and clean up my inbox and plan the week ahead. But again, it's not something that plays on my mind.
No, it's not.
It's just something that I just get done. And I'm fortunate. I've got some guys in the office that are what I would say self-starters, so they know what they need to do. It's a bit like I said to you before with with sporting teams, you don't want to be in the middle. So I'd rather sort of have what I call weapons at the top end, and they kind of just push real hard, and they know what they're doing, and they can get things done. But also, in a respectful and professional manner, so that people do kind of listen when they talk, and also they do have experience to kind of get it done. So we're sort of, I try to bat a bit above our weight and team size, but everybody's bought in, so it's not like we're doing something we don't want to be doing. I think we're all doing the jobs we actually want to be doing.
That makes a huge difference, obviously, having that passion behind it and that motivation. And I guess everybody's trying to get somewhere, but if people can, as you're leading your team, but if people can look at you and then think that that's a position that they aspire to, it really does help keep the liquid.
They're all coming for me, man.
They're all coming for me. I bet.
Knock me down. It's the tall poppy syndrome, but I think it's more appropriate short poppy syndrome with me. But look, it's sort of, I always joke there's no I in team, just one in Ilan. But it's really is collaborative across everybody, and I always make sure that everybody, I think, gets their dues, gets looked after properly. I sort of make sure everyone's sort of, a big part of it is culture and checking with people to make sure they're in the right headspace to be able to do the job they need to do. And that's just not people on your staff, but even people that you collaborate with. And like I said, being that conductor, it's a huge part of the job is the collaboration aspect, but also picking the right people to start with, right? Like, if you get a good team, not just internally, but externally, then they're more likely to do right by you. And I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I'm not the first property developer ever. So you just got to pick, I guess, what I say is we pick the best people we can afford. And from there, kind of, you make your own luck a little bit.
Yeah. And that's kind of contrary to the way that some people look at certain aspects of property development. I'm a
lot of shortcuts typically.
Yeah, well, that, and basically they just look at it at you consistently going around trying to win every transaction, you understand, and that's from outside looking in. And that's one of the things that I'll go back on that you touched on earlier on is that you're playing with lesser margins but larger sums of money. And that's something that I know that when I was in startup business, I really had to adapt to. It seems like a lot of money, but a personal amount of money and a business amount of money are not at all related. So in order to really move forward, you just have to get over that and be like, this is not otherwise related, because you can't keep going back to how that would feel if you go, I've got to spend six figures or seven figures or something. What happens if I lost
Yeah.
that or whatever? It's not. You do your due diligence, you have your structures and everything, but that's essentially what it takes in most scenarios. And that's what stops people getting off the ground past a certain comfort level, because they don't get that message of, there are facilities, there are banks, there are insurances, there are different things that you can do to manage
Yeah.
risk, but the numbers, they can really move on and go well past what is comfortable at a personal level to proper business numbers. And it is what it is. You just need to get comfortable with it. And a lot of people, they're not comfortable with it.
Yeah, I always say you've got to be you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. But it's look, it's definitely, I told you I had a few metaphors here, but it's definitely, I'm typically spending well over six figures every month. So it's a lot of money out, but it's a lumpy business. But it's not a hobby for me, right? Like, there's people, I'm going to do a project and knock up a couple of townhouses. I think Ruben said he has clients like that. And Ruben's done work with me as well. It's just one of those things that, you got to spend to make. And I don't look at it as profit always. I look at it as risk. Every time we start a project, I know how much money is, I believe, how much we're going to need to get from start to finish and when it's going to be required. And, it's just, it is what it is. You got to keep moving, spend to make, like I said. So when it works, it's fantastic. And thankfully it's typically worked, so I don't have to worry about when it doesn't work.
And I do have one question just before we move on to the last one, just a little bit of a side note, because it's something that I suffer from a little bit. I'm trying to get better at, and some of my associates. If you're in the middle of a project, you're at the critical stage, let's say they've started some internal finishes and a storm wakes you up at 2:00 in the morning, can you enjoy that much needed weather, or can you lie awake fretting about what damage is possibly being done to your development?
Oh, look, I'm not one of those that loves a storm, to be honest. It's typically cost me money. But so I'm not one of those, it's good, the rain's good. I like the sun. Sun is fantastic. But
sun
look,
money.
I mean, we're typically mitigated with that in terms of how we set up our contracts with our builders. There's always an element of lost time in weather. And look, at the moment, we're dealing with COVID, right? So we've got site restrictions. We're probably losing a day a week, right? We should have 40 men on one particular site. We've got closer to 20. When we get back, we have to do a whole procedure today to analyze the trades, how many are going to be vaccinated, what's that going to mean, how they're managing that process. Now, these aren't things that I really signed up for, but it's going to be important for not just me, but the builder and then their subcontractors for us to get to the end. And realistically, I can say it's not my problem way the contract is structured with the builder, but everything's my problem. It's a bit like the storm. Everything runs downhill to the bottom, and I'm at the bottom, right? So if it all runs down to me, it'll be my problem. If the builder goes broke, it'll be my problem. If the builder has cost overruns, they're going to cut corners elsewhere, it's going to be my problem. So I sleep really well, but I don't sleep a lot. So I feel like I try to exhaust myself every day. And I'll sleep, 6.5 hours, and I'll be like 12 till 6:30 in the morning. And I sleep really solidly. But if I tried to get 8 or 9 hours or whatever, like, no way, it's not going to happen. I'll just be thinking about work or go back to work. So like I said, I like what I do. It sounds like I'm a sicko with how much of it, but realistically, it's just it. And also putting in those extra hours allows me to, like I'm training for the Melbourne Marathon. The other day I went out, I did a 3-hour run, like over 30 Ks, and friends of mine were like, fuck, I wish I had 3 hours during the day to do that. I did that because the sun was out and it was an opportunity to do it. But then obviously I made up those time later on in the day. So it's just about how you manage your time and what you want to do to get the best.
And a lot of people that have jobs, they don't understand that you don't. There isn't an element, like if there was something that needed actioning, you don't say, oh, hey, it's after 5:00. There's no way that's happening. Like
of course.
That's not the thing.
Look, a big part of why I started the business was to be able to have that flexibility, to be able to go to my kids' athletic day or to help out at a school sausage sizzle or whatever, like to have that flexibility, because otherwise those things wouldn't be possible. So, but every time you lose an hour, you got to make up for that hour. And so I kind of just juggle that way.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's fantastic stuff. Well, we'll slide right on to question number 4, and I'm hot with anticipation on this one for you, because I think you'll have a pretty strong answer. Where do you see yourself in 10 years? Have you got a 10-year plan, a 5-year plan?
Yeah, I mean, like it'll be a big 10 years for me. I turned 40 sort of early next year. So I think that 40 to 50 run is going to be a pretty important decade for me. My girls 8 and 5, so they're really going to see them grow to be young ladies, which is exciting and scary at the same time. You mentioned before the startup projects that we're sort of doing from a professional sense, starting to ramp up and starting to get to quite a considerable amount of money in terms of the total pipeline. So we're sort of looking at about $500 million at the moment. In 10 years, I would be shocked if that wasn't closer to sort of $1 billion at the time. That might come across as arrogant to others, but you got to set pretty lofty goals, and that's been happening. So I'm excited to keep pushing ahead. I'm looking forward to driving a beautiful car. Appreciate all your help recently. Hopefully the new toy arrives early next year, and that'll be exciting, and that'll be something I can enjoy for those 10 years. Have to give you a shout out there. And yeah, fingers crossed it doesn't get stuck on the boat from Germany or whatever.
Yeah.
But really, I think I'm just looking forward to kind of 10 years of really enjoying myself. So, through my 20s, it was sort of establishing yourself, a lot of work, relationship through my 30s, starting a family, and then into my 40s, I think there's going to be a lot more me time, which sounds selfish, but just, as it's less hands-on with the kids and the business is more established, just being able to enjoy things that I want to do, whether that's running marathons or hitting the gym or more holidays, assuming the world opens up. I'm kind of, I'm pretty bullish for that 10-year period. And then hopefully if I do the hard yards in terms of from a personal perspective, health, enjoyment, business, the next 20, 30 will just take care of itself.
That is really fantastic, and not excessively optimistic either. That sounds like that's just about right for the trajectory of everything else. It's interesting you touched on the opportunity potentially to go back overseas, and I'm curious from your standpoint. Obviously, you have a staff base here. Is there as you get more into these projects and you have multiple projects at multiple stages, is there a desire? I have a dream. Okay.
Yeah.
You always have these built-in excuses. I can't possibly go there at this point because of this. I'm starting something that's very important. I need to, but I would love to be able to push back all the control that if, to line up with the school holidays or whatever, if I wanted to, I want to go to a Formula One race as soon as possible, one overseas. So I'm motivated to do that, but I'm in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, well, what happens if that lines up with something else that is really operational critical? And it's, you can still sort of answer a couple of emails, but you don't really want to. You want to go on a holiday and be on a holiday. Are you in the position within your company and the way that you have the structure that you can take a week off and actually be off for a week? Is that something that you've established?
Yeah. I mean, I think absolutely. Some people in the league might know, I got divorced last year, and that was, becoming a single dad per se is a bit of a juggle, and you've got to work out how am I actually going to do this? I think my lawyer was too good. I've actually got my kids too often, to be honest. And so, which is great. I'm not complaining, but I probably see them more than I did when I was married. So, it's kind of like, I got these kids and I've got them a lot. And you think, shit, what are you going to do? And I can quite easily switch off or juggle. We've had some holidays, and I'm looking forward to getting away with them or looking at things overseas. I think, you just got to do it. Like I said, the reason why I started the business was so that I could do some of these things and have that flexibility. I think if you've got the right people in place and you empower them to make good decisions, they continue to make good decisions. It's a bit like an owner's mentality. So, count cents, make dollars. If they have that mentality that they are the owner of the business, then they'll always make the right decision with your interest in heart. And obviously if you pay them well and you reward them and all that sort of stuff, a lot of things take care of itself. So yeah, I definitely think that's the plan for me. Definitely, how far I can go. I think your Formula One. You know, if you're vaxxed, you might have a good chance of getting to Singapore in a bubble and checking that one out. But
Yeah,
yeah, you know, if it wasn't for COVID, like I would have been at the Tokyo Games, like hand on heart, like I would have been there
yeah.
watching that bronze medal game. You know, we talked about the Pelicans. I think first and foremost, I'm a big Boomers fan. You know, Tommy,
Oh,
the league
yeah.
commissioner, knows. You know, I think he thinks that I argue with him for the sake of it. I just like the conversation, the banter, and he consistently takes the bait. But I love the Australian Boomers team, and you know that bronze medal win was just unbelievable. It was euphoric. I was still smiling about it 3 weeks later. I've got all my merch rolling up. I'm super excited to rock it out as the weather gets better here. And like, yeah, if they're playing, you know, in Asia, like, why not? You know, travel. Like, I don't want to be doing this stuff when I'm 60 and 70
No,
and sort
no,
of
you're right.
half enjoying it. And I did travel a fair bit when I was younger, but it's not the same because you know you just don't have as much
You
money,
don't have
right?
the
Like I don't care
resources.
who you
No.
are on this pod or just in general, like you're not going to have the same experiences. You're not going to be able to do the same things. And even I've had some bursts through COVID. You know, I got down to King Island to play golf. I went up to Sydney for a few days, which was fantastic. You can still do things in COVID. You've just got to be a little bit more adaptable and nimble if things do change on the fly. But you can have some times. And you know, when I went up to Sydney, you know, I was there for 36 hours and we closed 2 deals, and you know, I just roll in with the laptop and nobody knows where I am, to be honest.
Yeah, no,
So
it's fair enough. It's a good attitude. I mean, right around that time, and I know that when you're in Sydney, I was in Sydney, and I was anticipating
yeah,
multiple trips up and down the East Coast after that. And I came back
yeah,
here, and I haven't moved since because of the state of the whole thing. So it's a bit of a shame,
yeah,
because I
yeah.
was looking
It's
forward
look,
to a change of scene. But you got to try. You need to plan. You can't just put everything in the too hard basket. You need to manage it like you have to manage everything else. And as the vaccination rate goes through, we get the Singapore bubble happening. Not that I want to go.
mm,
I'm not. I will go, but as someone who has been to Singapore at least 30 times, my motivation to return to Singapore yet again is
well,
probably a little slim.
it's
So
your closest Grand Prix, though, right?
it is, but it's also one of the crappiest Grand Prix as well. So
We'll have to sell you an apartment at the new development that overlooks Albert Park Lake in Melbourne. It's got the whole track as a view. So
yeah,
just keep in touch as we start to release them early next year.
that sounds fantastic. I'll take the
I'll look after you, okay? I'll look after you.
I bet I'll take the middle unit, no window.
Nah,
The
you're in luck.
studio.
You're in luck. They've all got windows, okay? It's a
Uh,
special for you. They've all got
No, they've
windows.
all got windows. So fantastic. No, well, this has been an absolute breath of fresh air. I appreciate it. I think you know, past your 10-year plan, you could probably roll into some motivational speakers because you certainly got me motivated. I'll wake up tomorrow with a spring in my step, thinking about those Aussie Boomers.
Yeah.
What a great team to watch though. This past you know, this past Olympic campaign, and having
Yeah.
having Thibault on the team and the energy that he's brought, and after being so disappointed after the World Championships, I really thought that we should have done a little better there. And you know,
Yeah, well, I was fortunate enough to be in Lisbon at the time of that, and I was watching it early in the morning over there, and yeah, I was just devastated the whole day. Kind of ruined the trip there for a little while. But you know, you mentioned Thibault, but you know, Paddy Mills, the way he just
oh yeah,
built the character of that team, and you know, if you watch a lot of the footage that he's putting out now, if you just watch a lot of the footage, even through the games, you know, just the blaring of the Aussie, the rock, the music, how close they were. I don't know if anybody knew just exactly what was happening there going into it until it was really obvious. So, you know, to be fair, maybe Brian Gordon's the luckiest man to get that gig and just roll into a team that was just so focused and committed. And yeah, it's a treat. And I'm just so happy that after that loss to USA in the semis, that they were able to regroup. You know, Gorgia and Liam Santoria spoke with him about how he sort of got the team in the right headspace, which is an awesome watch on the NBL website. And yeah, it was like, I literally, like, no shit, like I literally chipped my tooth watching that game, the bronze medal game. because I was nervous. I've had it fixed since, but yeah, I'll never forget that. I've never had that sort of moment and experience. And like I said, I'm a Boomers tragic first and foremost. So yeah, that's a high until, you know, the next tournament. And I think the future, like just getting over that hump, now the team and the culture and the vibes, whoever comes forward and all the rest, they know they can do it. And hopefully those all those years of disappointments, you know, like 4 years and multiple fourth place finishes, and also teams, you know, play basketball yourself, like it's different when you go in and you're playing a team that knows they're good and they have that confidence. And when the game gets close, that's when they've got the ability to pull away. So yeah, it's super exciting. And hopefully a lot of those guys go on to have like great individual seasons. Like, you know, a lot of them, some of them are in new locations and others are in the same spots. And like, you'd love to see Thible's role grow with Philly. You'd love to see, you know, Paddy come in and be Boomers Paddy in Brooklyn, which could be amazing to just see how that happens, being unleashed with Steve Nash as the coach, and like teammates that are really like go and play a faster pace than the Spurs. So yeah, it's exciting. And then, you know, Delhi close to home playing United. Hopefully he's not hobbling and he's still got some game in him.
Yeah, hopefully Delhi isn't slowed down by the pace of the NBL game to a single-digit contributor, which is always a risk.
It's a hard league to put up stats. It's a hard league to put up stats.
It is very, very
40 minutes, and yeah,
it's a very physical. You and I both had enough courtside seats to appreciate how brutal the NBL
100%.
game is. It's very physical. It's I mean, just rolling back a little bit, because every time I bring it up, I get in trouble by the powers that be. In the previous campaign, why didn't they go under on the Gasol Rubio pick and rolls? Because I just, it's they could have been world champions. I don't understand.
Yeah,
and
obviously you're bringing up bad memories. I don't want to talk about it. I literally I moped around for a day after that. You know, it was, you know, did Mills foul him? I don't think he did.
No,
you know, did Joe shoot enough? Did some guys play too much? No, he didn't shoot enough. That's for sure.
Joe cracked under the pressure. They are a lot better under pressure at this stage. They really, the cracks formed, and that was their experience. And they probably said to themselves, never letting that happen again, you know. So what we just saw in Tokyo was that they're actually a much better defensive team, and obviously adding a NBA or second team defender makes a huge difference. Nuts. I mean, Thibault was everywhere. But you know, they got some pretty good minutes at times. I was a big critic of him in Sobe. I thought Josh Green had some really valuable minutes. Like the intensity, those guys were flying around the court. It's a huge difference when you look at that team, how it's grown in terms of the caliber of leagues that these guys were playing in, and compared to previous years. Like, again, I mentioned it, you know, when you just know you belong, there's a huge difference when you're rolling, you know, Damian Martin or Adam Gibson out to some of the guys that, you know, we're bringing in. Dante X, and just the length and actually physically the size of his body. These guys can switch on the pick and rolls. They can go down, crash a rebound, and then push the ball. So our defense was significantly better. Forget everything, the whole thing. The removal of Gibbo.
2019 is gone.
The removal of Gibbo is what got us the hardware, and that's the beginning, the middle, and the end. Gibbo is not the answer, and I hope he gets to see this. You know, we've got this.
He was very good back in the day, okay, but it's been a tough 3-4 years for Adam Gibson. I think I've heckled him pretty heavily from the court side. He's copped a few sprays from me over the years.
Yeah, and likewise. And that's at his home games. So anyway, we could go on like this all night, but we won't. Thanks so much for coming on for questions. And it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you, Ilan.
Yeah, thanks, Luke. And just like quickly, last shout out to everyone watching, like definitely get in touch with Luke if you're looking for a car. Huge help, knows his stuff inside out. Massive help. I know you've helped out Spaceman in the league, and I would tell everyone, just whatever you're looking for, Luke's got your back.
I do. Peace.